Rain hit the ground hard, like thousands of tiny stones falling from the sky. The street was dark, dirty, and cold. People rushed to close their doors. No one wanted trouble tonight. But one small, barefoot black boy was running through the storm like his life depended on it. His name was Terrence. Tears mixed with rain on his face. His chest hurt from running. His legs felt weak. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Not tonight. He kept whispering to himself, breath shaking. Please. Please be safe, Mama. Please. His t-shirt was torn from the shoulder. Fresh bruises covered his arms. His lip was bleeding. The boy looked like he had been dragged through a nightmare. But none of that scared him more than the thought of what was happening inside his house, behind the locked door he had escaped from. He heard his mother screaming. He heard men laughing. He heard the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. That sound would not leave his ears. People on the street tried to stop him as he ran past. Kid, where are you going? It's dangerous out here. Terrence, stop running. Come back. But the boy didn't look at anyone. He only looked forward. Straight ahead was a place nobody went to. A place every child was warned about. A place adults whispered about in fear. The Romano mansion, home of the most feared Mafia Boss in the entire district. The black building stood tall like a monster in the dark. Guards in suits stood at the gate, holding umbrellas, watching the boy run toward them in disbelief. Terrence's breath broke as he reached the gate. He fell to his knees in the mud, palms scraping the ground. His tiny body shook uncontrollably. But he raised his head and shouted with all the strength he had left. Please! They're hitting my mother. The guards froze. The boy's voice. It wasn't loud. But it was broken, desperate, and full of pain. One guard stepped forward. Kid, you can't be here. Go home, please. Terrence hit the ground with his fists. No nitrogen monoxide. They will kill her. They will kill my mother. Please open the gate. His scream echoed under the heavy rain. Inside the mansion, behind large glass windows, Mr. Romano heard the cry. He lifted his head slowly from the papers he was reading. His eyes narrowed. That voice, that fear. It felt strangely familiar. He stood up. Outside, Terrence tried to stand but fell again. His legs couldn't hold him anymore. He didn't care. He kept shouting from the ground, "Help my mother! Please someone help my mother!" Lightning flashed across the sky. The big gate unlocked with a metallic click. The guards stepped aside, confused and scared. Because Mr. Romano himself walked out into the rain. He wore a black coat. Rain slid down his hair. His face was unreadable cold, quiet, dangerous. The streets shook when people whispered his name. But right now, he wasn't looking dangerous. He was looking at the boy. Terrence tried to crawl toward him, but slipped in the mud. Romano reached him first and crouched down, placing a strong hand on the boy's trembling shoulder. "Look at me," Romano said softly. Terrence lifted his head. Their eyes met. Romano saw a child covered in bruises, soaked in rain, too young to carry this kind of fear. The boy's lips quivered as he whispered, "They're hurting my mother. Please. I have no one else." For a moment, something old, something painful moved in Romano's eyes. "Stand up, boy," he said gently, helping him to his feet. "Tell me your mother's name." Terrence swallowed hard. His voice broke. "Maya. Maya Brown." Romano froze. The guards saw it, the dangerous stillness, the shadow of memory in his expression. Rain thundered. Lightning flashed. Romano's voice came out low and sharp. "Everyone, prepare the cars, now." Terrence gasped. Romano placed a hand on the boy's back and said, "I will take you to her." And part 1 ends with the convoy powering up. Engines roaring as the feared Mafia boss steps into the storm, for a little boy who refused to stop crying, and for a woman Romano never forgot. The rain still fell hard as the black cars rolled out of Romano's mansion. Their headlights cut through the darkness like sharp knives. Terence sat in the back seat of the first car. His small hands shook on his lap. His clothes were soaked. But for the first time tonight, he wasn't running alone. Mr. Romano sat beside him. The Mafia boss didn't speak at first. His jaw was tight. His eyes were fixed on the wet road ahead. Terence felt scared, not of the man, but of what might happen if they were too late. Finally, Romano asked quietly, "Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out." Terence's voice was soft and broken. They came again. The landlord's men. They were angry that Mama couldn't pay the extra money. Mama said she would pay next week. But they didn't listen. They hit her. They grabbed her hair. They pushed me away when I tried to help. Romano's hands curled into fists. Terence continued, shaking. They said they will teach her a lesson. They locked the door. I ran out when they weren't watching. I tried to call police, but nobody came. Romano's eyes darkened. "Who is your mother to them?" he asked. Terence breathed heavily, whispering, "She is just a good woman. She works at the diner. She never hurts anyone." Romano looked away for a moment. There was something in his silence. Something heavy. Something old. Terence looked up with frightened eyes. "Mister, do you know my mother?" Romano didn't answer immediately. But the truth sat in his chest like a burning coal. Many years ago, long before he became a feared mafia boss, Romano had been a desperate young man running from danger. One night, injured and alone, he collapsed near a small diner's back door. A woman with warm eyes and steady hands found him. Her name was Maya Brown. She hid him, fed him, cleaned his wounds, saved his life, and never asked who he was. Romano whispered now, "She once helped me when nobody else did." Terence's eyes widened. "My mama helped you?" "Yes," Romano said. "And I never forgot." The convoy turned sharply toward the old neighborhood. The buildings looked rough and forgotten. Windows were cracked. Streetlights flickered. Somewhere inside, a woman was fighting for her life. Romano leaned forward. "Stop the cars." All vehicles stopped at the corner before Maya's building. Romano stepped out, letting the rain hit his face. His men stood ready, waiting for orders. "Listen carefully," Romano said, his voice strong and cold. "No guns unless absolutely needed. No noise, no blood unless they force it. The only goal is Maya Brown and her safety. Bring her out alive." His men exchanged looks. They had never heard Romano speak like this. This wasn't business. This was personal. Terence stood beside him, shivering. Romano placed a heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. "You stay close to me," he said. They walked together toward the building. The sounds from inside were louder now, yelling, something breaking, a woman's faint cry. Terence flinched. "Mama!" Romano motioned his men to circle the building quietly. 2 guards moved to the back door. Others took positions at the stairway. Romano then looked at Terence. "You did the right thing coming to me." Terence's lips trembled. "Can you really save her?" Romano bent down slightly so he was eye level with the boy. "I owe your mother my life. I will not let her die." The hallway inside the building was dark. The walls smelled of dampness and old smoke. A loud crash echoed from apartment 3 by Maya's home. Romano raised a hand, signaling silence. Then without fear, he stepped forward. He pushed the door gently at first. Then harder. The wooden door cracked. Voices inside went quiet. A chair scraped the floor. Someone whispered, "Who's there?" Romano didn't wait. He stepped inside the darkness alone. Terence gasped. His heart pounding. And part 2 ends with Romano disappearing into the shadowy apartment where danger waited behind every corner and a mother's life hung by a thin, breaking thread. The door of apartment 3B creaked open slowly, as if it feared what waited inside. Romano stepped in first. The air inside was heavy, thick with the smell of sweat, fear, and broken things. The small room was dark except for a single flickering bulb. Its weak yellow light swung slowly, making the shadows move like ghosts on the walls. Romano's eyes scanned the room. Broken plates on the floor. A chair turned over. A table pushed against the wall. A trail of blood drops leading toward the bedroom. Every detail hit him like a punch. He remembered a different time. The woman who once helped him. A warm kitchen light. A soft voice saying, "Sit, you're hurt. Let me help." He closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them with a colder fire. Behind him, Terence tried to enter, but Romano raised a hand without looking back. "Stay," he said softly. Terence froze in the hallway, shaking but trusting him. Romano walked deeper into the apartment. The sound of muffled groans came from behind the half-open bedroom door. Two men inside were whispering, "Did you hit her too hard? She'll wake up. Don't worry. We just need the money." Romano's jaw tightened. His steps became slow, silent, deadly. He pushed the door fully open. Inside, Maya Brown lay on the floor, her back against the bed frame. Her hair was messy, her lip bleeding. Her cheek was swollen. But her eyes, those eyes Romano remembered, were open, sharp, and still full of strength. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She looked angry. The two men turned and froze when they saw Romano standing in the doorway. "Romano?" One man stuttered. The other swallowed hard. "This isn't your business." Romano stepped forward, voice calm but dangerous. "Everything in this room is my business." The room fell silent except for Maya's labored breathing. One man reached under his jacket, but Romano didn't give him time. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted it, and sent him crashing against the wall with a single move. The other man tried to run, but Romano kicked the door shut and blocked his escape. Terence heard the noise and covered his ears, tears falling again. Inside, Maya tried to sit up, wincing. "Romano, what are you doing here?" Romano ignored the second man, who now froze in fear. He knelt down beside Maya. "You're hurt," he said softly. Maya let out a weak laugh despite her bruises. "I've been worse." Romano touched her cheek lightly. His voice grew tight, as if fighting old memories. "You should not face this alone." The second man suddenly lunged toward Romano with a broken bottle. Maya gasped. Romano moved faster than a blink. He dodged, grabbed the man's arm, and pushed him onto the bed. "Enough," Romano growled. His men burst into the room a second later, weapons drawn. Terence ran inside at the same moment. "Mama!" He slid to the floor beside her, hugging her waist. Maya's arms wrapped around him tightly, her body shaking despite her brave face. "You came back. You came back," she whispered. Romano stood over them, his chest rising with deep, controlled breaths. His men restrained the attackers. Maya looked up at Romano. "Why did you come?" she asked in a quiet voice. Romano didn't look away. He didn't hide. He didn't pretend. "Because your son asked me," he said. "And because a long time ago, you saved me when no one else did." Maya's eyes softened with recognition. "You're that boy?" "The one who—" "Yes," Romano said. "And I'm here now." For a moment, everything was still. The rain outside, the broken room, the terrified men. Then, in the distance, sirens wailed. Police. Fast. Getting closer. Terence tightened his grip on his mother. Maya's breath quickened. Romano stood slowly and looked toward the door. "They're coming," he said. "But don't worry. No one touches you again." Part 3 ends as blue and red lights flash through the broken window, and the past, the present, and danger collide in one small apartment. The blue and red lights outside. The apartment flashed through the broken window like a warning signal. The sirens grew louder, filling the entire hallway. Romano stood tall near the door, his shadow stretching across the floor. His men tightened their grips on the attackers. Terence clung to his mother as she tried to sit up straighter, ignoring her pain. A loud voice from the hallway shouted, "Police! Open the door!" Romano didn't move. He simply said to his men, "No one fires. No one panics." The door burst open. 3 police officers rushed in with guns raised. Their flashlights landed on Romano, his men, the tied-up attackers, and Maya sitting bruised on the floor. The officers didn't even blink. They immediately pointed their guns straight at Romano. "Hands up!" One officer barked. Romano's men automatically stepped in front of him, forming a shield. Terence flinched and hugged Maya tighter. Maya raised a hand weakly. "Stop, please." But the police ignored her. One officer shouted, "We got reports of violence." "Romano, step away from the woman." Romano didn't move an inch. He spoke calmly, "Your violence is lying on the floor." My men just stopped it. But the second officer, the one with sharp eyes and a sneer, shook his head. "We don't trust criminals." Romano gave him a long, cold stare. "And I don't trust cowards." The room froze. Terence's heart thumped loudly in his chest. Maya tried to stand, but her legs trembled. The officer looked at the restrained attackers, then at the landlord who had just entered the hallway, fat, sweating, and pretending to be concerned. The landlord pointed at Romano dramatically. "There, he broke in. He attacked my tenants. Arrest him. He's dangerous." Romano's men growled under their breath. One whispered, "He's lying through his teeth." But the landlord wasn't finished. He pointed at Maya. "And that woman owes me money. She caused all this." Maya's face fell. Terence stood up shakily, stepping in front of his mother like a tiny shield. "She didn't do anything. They hurt her. Quiet, boy." The officer snapped. Terence stepped back but didn't sit down. Romano's voice dropped into something colder, heavier. "Do not speak to him like that." The officer lifted his gun higher. "Romano, don't make this worse." Romano smirked, a dangerous smile. "You arrived late. You ignored calls. You ignored a woman being beaten. And now you want to arrest the people who saved her." The officers hesitated. For the first time, doubt crossed their faces. Maya gathered what little strength she had and pushed herself to her feet. Terence helped her. She stood tall despite her injuries. She pointed at the attackers. "These men are the ones who hit me. They threatened to hurt my son." Romano stopped them. "He didn't start anything." The landlord's face turned red. "She's lying. She wants sympathy." Maya's voice cracked but stayed strong. "Look at me. Look at my face. Look at my bruises. Do I look like I attacked them?" The room fell silent. One officer lowered his gun slightly. The second officer hesitated. The third officer looked at the landlord suspiciously. Romano didn't waste the moment. "Check the hallway cameras," he said. "Check the building entrance. Check the stairs. You'll see everything." The landlord panicked. "No. There's no need. Why check anything?" Romano stepped forward slowly. He didn't threaten. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. He simply said, "You're going to regret touching her." The landlord stumbled back. One officer finally made a decision. "We're detaining everyone until we get the footage." Romano looked at Maya and Terence. "You two stay behind me." As the officers motioned them to move, Romano signaled his men to drop their weapons. For now, Maya touched Romano's arm. "You don't have to fight. I don't want blood because of me." Romano looked at her, and something soft broke in his expression. "For you," he said quietly. "I can hold back." Part 4 ends with police escorting everyone toward the hallway. Tension like electricity in the air, and Romano walking calmly into danger he didn't fear. Because protecting Maya and her son meant more than anything tonight. The courtroom smelled of old wood, cheap perfume, and tension so thick it felt heavy in the air. The only sound was the echoing footsteps of officers escorting Romano, Maya, Terrence, the landlord, and the two attackers inside. Everyone took their seats, but no one relaxed. This wasn't a normal hearing. Everyone could feel it. Romano sat calmly, hands folded, eyes cold. The attackers fidgeted beside their lawyer, trembling like men who knew the truth was not on their side. The landlord sat with fake confidence, wiping sweat from his forehead, staring at the judge like a student hoping a strict teacher wouldn't ask questions. Terrence sat next to Maya, holding her hand tightly. Her bruises were darker today. Her lip was still swollen, but her back was straight, her chin up. She refused to look weak, not in front of the people who hurt her. The judge entered, an older woman with sharp eyes. She looked from one side of the room to the other, already sensing something strange. "Bring forward the injured party," she ordered. Maya stood up slowly. The courtroom gasped softly when they saw her face. Bruises marked her cheek, temple, and shoulder. The judge's eyes narrowed. "Mrs. Brown, who did this to you?" Maya looked at the attackers. She pointed directly at them. "They did." The landlord jumped up immediately. "Your Honor, she's lying. She is trying to hide her debts. She's blaming my workers because she can't pay rent." The judge slammed her gavel. "Sit down." The landlord fell silent, swallowing hard. The attacker's lawyer quickly stood. These men claim they arrived to collect rent and found Romano beating the woman. They say they tried to protect her. Romano didn't react. He didn't blink. He didn't defend himself. He simply looked at Terrence. The judge turned to Romano. "Mr. Romano, do you wish to speak?" Romano answered softly, "No. The truth doesn't need my voice today." The judge frowned at the unexpected reply. Terrence suddenly stood up, surprising everyone. His small hands shook, but his voice was loud enough to fill the entire room. "I want to speak." The judge nodded gently. "Come forward, young man." Terrence walked to the center of the courtroom. Everyone stared, some shocked, some pitying, some annoyed. The landlord rolled his eyes. The attackers whispered nervously. Terrence looked up at the judge. His voice cracked. "My mother didn't attack anyone. She didn't do anything wrong. Those men broke into our home. They pushed her. They hit her. They threw her on the ground. They said they would teach her a lesson. I saw all of it." The courtroom fell silent. Terrence took a deep breath. Tears filled his eyes, but he kept speaking. "And when I tried to stop them, they pushed me too. I ran outside. I tried calling police. They didn't come. So I ran somewhere else. I ran to Mr. Romano." The judge raised her brows. "And why him?" Terrence wiped his tears. "Because I had no one else. And because I knew he wouldn't let my mother die." The landlord jumped up again. "That boy is making up stories. He's emotionally unstable." Romano stood up slowly. He didn't shout. He didn't raise a fist. He didn't threaten. He just said 3 words that made the landlord freeze. "Play the footage." The judge turned to the officers. "Do we have the building security footage?" One officer nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. We retrieved it this morning." The landlord's face went white. "No. That footage isn't necessary. I can explain. Sit down." The judge thundered. The officer connected a USB to the screen. The first video clip appeared. The courtroom leaned forward. It showed Maya opening the door. The attackers forcing their way inside. Pushing her. Pulling Terrence. Laughing, hitting, breaking furniture. Threatening. Everything. Terrence lowered his head. Maya covered her mouth. Romano watched with frozen rage in his eyes. The judge stared at the screen with disbelief and anger. When the footage ended, the judge pointed at the landlord and attackers. "Arrest them." The courtroom exploded in gasps. Terrence ran back to Maya and hugged her tightly. Romano finally looked at the judge with a calm face. Justice had spoken, but the storm wasn't over yet. Part 5 ends with officers handcuffing the guilty men and Romano turning toward the boy and the woman, already planning his next move to protect them. The courtroom was silent after the security footage ended, so silent that Terrence could hear his own heartbeat. Maya held her son close, her hands shaking from emotion. Romano's men stood by the back wall, tense and ready, but Romano himself remained still. Like a man who had already calculated every outcome, the judge leaned back in her chair, face hard as stone. "This," she said slowly, "is not just abuse. This is cruelty and corruption." The landlord's legs gave out. He collapsed into his seat, mumbling excuses. It wasn't my fault. I didn't tell them to hit her. I only wanted." "Please." The judge raised a hand sharply. Silence. 2 officers approached the attackers first. They tried to protest, but no one listened now. Handcuffs snapped around their wrists. Then the judge pointed straight at the landlord. "You will also be taken into custody. Charges include assault, extortion, and intimidation." Maya exhaled shakily. For the first time, her eyes softened. She looked at Terrence, then at Romano, who watched everything with a calm, unreadable expression. But the landlord wasn't finished. As officers grabbed his arms, he suddenly twisted toward the judge. "You don't understand," he shouted. "Romano planned this. He wants my building. He wants my block. He set everything up. He's using this woman." The accusation sent a ripple through the court. The judge turned her stern eyes to Romano. Double quotes, "Mr. Romano, do you have anything to say about this?" Romano stood. His suit was perfect. His face was controlled. But his eyes, cold fire burned behind them. "Yes," he said. "I have something to say." Everyone leaned forward, officers, lawyers, even the judge. Romano walked slowly toward the center of the tifo courtroom. He looked directly at the landlord. "You hurt a woman who once saved me," he said. "You hurt her child. You run your buildings like prisons. You steal from people who barely survive. You destroy families. And you think you can hide behind lies." The landlord shook his head violently. "I'm not the criminal here, you are." Romano stepped closer. "I am many things," he said calmly. "But I don't break women. And I don't hit children." The judge blinked. She didn't expect that answer. Romano turned to her. "Your Honor, I will not deny my reputation. But Maya Brown, her son? They have nothing to do with my world. And I will not allow anyone to use my name to cover their crimes." The judge stared at him, searching for any sign of deception. She found none. "Remove him," she ordered, pointing at the landlord. As the landlord was dragged out, he screamed threats. "I'll get out. I know people." "You're dead, Romano, dead." Romano didn't even look at him. Once the room calmed, the judge turned toward Maya and Terrence. "Mrs. Brown," she said softly, "you and your son will be placed under protection until this case is fully resolved." Terrence squeezed Maya's hand, but Maya shook her head gently. We don't have anyone," she whispered. "No family. No close friends." The judge hesitated. "Then we will assign." Romano stepped forward. "They can stay under my protection," he said simply. Everyone in the courtroom turned to stare. Maya looked up at him, eyes wide. "Romano, why?" "You owe me nothing." He looked at her for a long moment, voice low. "You saved my life long ago. That debt doesn't disappear." Terrence took a small step toward him. "And you saved us." Romano's eyes softened just slightly. The judge considered the offer. Romano's protection was, in many ways, stronger than any witness program. After a long pause, she nodded. For now. The court accepts. Whispers filled the room. Some shocked. Some fearful. Some relieved. Maya lowered her head, overwhelmed. Terrence hugged her tightly, whispering, "Mama, we're safe now." Romano turned away, walking toward the courtroom doors. His men followed him quietly, but before he stepped out, he paused. Without turning around, he said, "This isn't over. Someone let those men think they could touch her. Someone higher. Someone bigger. I'm going to find them." The room felt colder. Terrence felt a shiver run down his back. Maya watched Romano leave. Confusion and gratitude mixing inside her heart. Part 6 ends with a storm rising outside and an even bigger one rising inside Romano's world. As he prepares to face enemies far more dangerous than thugs or landlords, the courthouse steps were wet from fresh rain when Romano, Maya, and Terrence walked outside. Reporters gathered at the bottom, cameras flashing wildly. The world suddenly cared about Maya, Brown, the woman who stood against cruelty, and the Mafia Boss who stood beside her. Romano ignored the noise. His focus was only on the boy and his mother. "Come," he said gently. "My car is this way." Terrence held his mother's hand tightly as they crossed the sidewalk. Maya walked slowly, every step hurt, but there was a new strength in her eyes. She looked up at Romano as he opened the car door. "Why are you doing this for us?" she asked. Romano paused. The question hit deeper than she knew. He remembered himself as a young man bleeding, scared, lost. A hand reached toward him, warm and steady. Maya's hand. She didn't ask who he was. She didn't judge. She only said, "Sit, you're safe now." Romano looked at her and answered simply, "You saved me long before I had power. This is repayment. And protection." Terrence climbed into the car, but before the door closed, he whispered, "Thank you, Mr. Romano." Romano's expression softened for the first time. "You can call me Romano," he said softly. The safe house was nothing like the cold mansion Terrence expected. It was warm, quiet, and hidden behind tall iron trees. Inside, a fireplace glowed softly. The kitchen smelled of warm bread. A doctor waited to check Maya's injuries. Maya sat on the couch while the doctor cleaned her wounds. Terrence stayed by her side, holding her fingers. Romano watched from a distance. "She needs rest," the doctor said. "She hasn't eaten properly in days." Romano nodded. "Anything she needs, give it to her." For the first time in hours, Maya relaxed. She closed her eyes, breathing slowly. Terrence curled beside her like a small shadow. Romano stood quietly by the doorway, hands behind his back. One of his men approached. "Boss," he whispered, "you know this doesn't end here." The landlord wasn't working alone. Romano nodded. "I know. And they'll come after the boy. And the mother. And maybe even," Romano cut him off with one sentence, "they will not touch them." His voice was calm but sharp as steel. Nightfall hours passed. The safe house grew quiet. Outside, wind moved through the trees, whispering against the windows. Maya finally woke up, sitting slowly. Romano stepped inside the room. "How do you feel?" he asked. She gave a small, tired smile. "Better, but confused." "What confuses you?" "You," she said honestly. "You're feared by everyone. But you're gentle with my boy. And you," she stopped herself. Romano lowered his eyes for a moment. "I am not gentle," he said. "Not with my world. Not with my enemies. But with us," Maya said softly. "You are." Romano looked at her. Her bravery impressed him. Her kindness humbled him. Her strength reminded him of the night she saved him. "You gave me a chance once," Romano said. "Now I give one back." Terrence, half asleep, whispered from the couch, Are we going to stay here? Romano turned to him. For as long as you need, he said. No one can hurt you here. Terence blinked slowly. You feel like family, he whispered. Romano froze. Those words hit deeper than any bullet. A new promise later. Romano stepped outside, standing on the porch under the moonlight. His men waited for orders. The air felt heavy like the calm before a storm. There's someone behind all of this, Romano said slowly. Someone bigger than that landlord. His men nodded. The syndicate, one said. Romano's eyes sharpened. They touched Maya, he said. They scared her boy. A moment of silence. Then we end them. But inside the house, Maya watched him through the window with a worried expression. She could see the war starting in his eyes. A war born because he chose to protect her. Terence came to her side and leaned against her. Mama, he whispered, do you think Romano will always protect us? Maya wrapped her arm around her son. I think, she said softly, watching Romano's silhouette in the moonlight. He already made that promise. Part 7 ends with Romano standing guard outside the safe house, a mafia boss who once lived in shadows, now protecting a woman who once saved him, and a boy who believed in him more than anyone ever did.